Hello to everyone watching. My hope with all our studying is not only for those who are married to have better marriages, but also for those who are not married to think twice about their intended spouse, to look back at everything that we will read and have read, and really consider and compare that person to what God expects, and also to honestly judge ourselves whether we are married or not. Are we what God wants us to be? If I'm not what God wants me to be, should I even form a home, an Adventist home? May you be blessed as we continue our studying, and may you find something relevant for you as we read together. This chapter reminded me of Ilobolo or Ilobola, depending on who you are. And what else did it remind me of? Anti-feminism. The new brand of feminism that isn't only about give us more money, give us the money we deserve, which is okay, which isn't only about don't abuse us, which is very much okay, and treat us with the respect God wants you to treat us with, which is a-okay. But now it has shifted to an extreme extent, and it has become anti-biblical, anti-Bible, anti-Christian. The feminism that I speak of, the feminism that has been thrown in my face as something I am not living up to, which I apparently should be living up to. That brand of feminism, it's not talking about. It's against it completely. But also it's talking about equality in the kitchen. Boys, men should be learning, young men should be learning how to do all their home duties. And that means they will actually use those home duties. It means that they won't get married and then just sit down and never ever do anything. It means they will actually use those duties whether they're married or not. God doesn't give you a skill so that you don't ever use it again. So yes, that is what this chapter reminded me of. Domestic training. Here we go. All right. Upon no account should the marriage relation be entered upon until the parties have a knowledge of the duties of a practical domestic life. Not only domestic work, all the duties. Domestic labor isn't only cleaning the toilets and washing. There's a lot more. The wife should have culture of mind and manners that she may be qualified to rightly train the children that may be given her. As this book goes along, we will learn about what rightly train means. So I just want us to be aware that not all training is right. Not all training is as God would have it. And I'm talking weirdly because I've got a crown, and this crown on my tooth is definitely too high. It's too late now. I can't go back to the endodontist. So you're going to have to bear with me, and I'm going to have to bear with myself trying to force my teeth down. All right. So there's an untrained wife versus a trained wife. The right culture is the culture of heaven. And where will we find that culture? In the books that the divine one from heaven has inspired, which is the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, which one of those cultures is how to be meek, not weak, meek, how to use her tongue in the right manner, how to submit without ever giving away her individuality, how to listen to everything that is right, and how to lead the family in the right direction. That is all the culture of heaven. How to be polite, how to be circumspect, how to think before speaking and maybe not speaking at all, and when to speak, and how she should definitely never be quiet but speak up. She needs to learn that before she then has children, because she needs to teach the children the same things she has learned from God. Right. Paragraph number 2. Many ladies accounted well educated, having graduated with honors at some institution of learning, are shamefully ignorant of the practical duties of life. This is something we have to get out of our heads. The most educated person is not the most educated. I know that makes no sense, but God doesn't view that person with any amount of number of letters or candidate of those letters. They're not educated if they're not educated in the things of God. That is all that counts. And if they are not educated in the things of God, it means, in his words, they are shamefully ignorant. Shamefully ignorant of the practical duties of life. I don't want you boasting about your child and, oh, she graduated summa cum laude if she can't cook, if she can't make yummy muffins. Not that you need to make muffins, but if she can't cook, if she can't clean well, if she doesn't get up early in the morning to do all her chores timeously so that all her time is managed well, she is useless. She needs to get the right kind of training to make herself the right kind of daughter, and then she'll be a candidate of heaven. She needs to learn practical things. I taught my daughter only this year how to, not hem, but how to repair things that are torn by hand. Hemming, I've not had to show her because nothing has been too long. But yeah, things like that. Is she good at sewing? Does she sew neatly? Can she fix something quickly? Can she fix the width of the skirt, the circumference of a skirt if it's too big? Can she do that? Will she be able to fix a baby's diaper rash? Does she know the best thing to use? Does she know not to use baby powder because it's dangerous? Does she know to use charcoal if the child has ingested something dangerous and the hospital isn't exactly 2 seconds away? Does she know that? Those are the practical duties of life, not only in the kitchen, but for child rearing. Does she know all of that? If not, useless. They are destitute of the qualifications necessary for the proper regulation of family, and hence essential to its happiness. A loud-mouthed know-it-all will not lead to a happy family, even if she does know it all in her field. What she needs is to know everything that God has given her and has made available to her. This is something that really hurts me for all of us as a church, because the people I'm talking about have access. If they have access to Facebook, access to whatever, TikTok, honestly, I hate TikTok. I'm sorry if you do get something useful from it, but the things that come up there are the most useless things. They're to waste my time going through and past the drivel to get to the good. I don't need the good. The good is, you don't need the good. You don't need TikTok. You need your Bible and your spirit of prophecy. The others are nice to haves. Of course, they're nice to haves. If they're going to fix your life, well, or help you, if they're going to support you in your growth, you need them. Not as much as you need the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. Those will help your growth upward. Those others will help you, laterally. Please, I can't understand Adventists who don't know the spirit of prophecy and yet have access to it. And I know God has a stronger phrase than I can't understand. People who have the knowledge given to them, but willingly, knowingly, purposefully ignore said knowledge. And then not only do they ignore said knowledge as provided in all the works God has given us, they then belittle, mock, and label those who love said knowledge given in here. The ones who only enlarge their knowledge, their library, by then going onto TikTok or YouTube or wherever, but who feast on this, and that is a treat. Those people who live on those media and not for the good specifically, there are people who have ministries everywhere, so I'm not talking about them. And of course, ministry has to come after. Ministry comes after knowing the will of God and fulfilling it and performing it in your own life. Then you can go and serve. You can't feed others if you yourself are not fully fed. Then you're just giving people crumbs. Please, I'm begging all of us, those of us who are wasting time on TikTok and on useless things on TikTok, let's ask God to change our tastes. Those of us who are ministering but have not yet learned all the qualifications, I've gone totally off topic. haven't received all the qualifications God would like us to receive. Let us begin from the beginning, at the start, the foundation. First we learn before we can teach. Let us teach people the full gospel of Christ. Let us live the full gospel so that even if we never get round to teaching them, they will have seen it in our lives. There's a ministry I know where I don't know what's wrong with them. I'm sorry, but okay, then I know what's wrong with them. They don't believe God. They don't believe His word. One thing God has said over and over to us Seventh-day Adventists who have the Bible, the spirit of prophecy, is don't you dare put meat on your table and don't serve it to anybody else. But there they are. The people they work with are going around serving meat, chicken to the people they are ministering to. That's what I mean. That is just Adventist. It is wrong. Please begin at the start. Learn what God would do through you, and God wants you to give the people the true health message. All right, so let's get back. But it actually does go on to the topic, because the topic is properly qualified, and that includes diet. You can only feed your children the right thing if you know what the right thing is and you are fully converted, meaning not you have decided, okay, I agree now, meaning you have allowed God to convict you. You have allowed His Spirit to dwell within you and humbled you. You have allowed it to humble you. It's not a matter of, well, I'm not yet convicted. That means I don't want to do it. That is self-speaking. The word of God, it is immediate. It has an immediate effect. When God said, stand up and take your mattress, the person didn't take 50 years to rise up. It was immediate. God's power is immediate. If we allow it to, if we have faith in His power, He will empower us, and empower us indeed, and give us life abundantly, and that life will then be given to the people we are ministering to, given to our families. I beg you, tell everybody, if you're a true Seventh-day Adventist, if you call yourself a Seventh-day Adventist, read the books of the person who began the church and gave us the name Seventh-day Adventist. Learn, be quiet, breathe all the words in, and if you truly love God, you will love what He has said, and you will allow Him to change you, and change you wholly. Holy, WHOLLY. They may talk of women's elevated sphere. Oh, okay, yes, the women who are well educated. They are destitute of the qualifications necessary for the proper regulation of family, and hence essential to its happiness. They may talk of woman's elevated sphere and of her rights, yet they themselves fall far below the true sphere of woman. Woman, we have as a church made our women fall far below the true sphere that God had set up for us as women. That sphere is found in Titus 2. That sphere is found in the Adventist home, in child guidance, in fundamentals of Christian education, in fundamentals of education. It's in the Word of God. It is in Eve and Adam and what God told them. She will bear the children, he will toil the ground. I'm just saying. So, and I'm not saying that if you're infertile, you should then just be upset or that you must adopt. There's more to life than being a mother. But for those who are parents, it's already there in the Garden of Eden. If you look deeply, you don't even need the spirit of prophecy. There are many people living the truths of the spirit of prophecy who have never even read it. God's spirit is above and beyond the written word. It reaches further than that. Anyway, so what is the woman's right? It is the right of every daughter of Eve to have a thorough knowledge of household duties. To receive training in every department of domestic labor. I hate washing toilets, but you must do it. Do it often, do it thoroughly, do it with all your heart. Every young lady should be so educated that if called to fill the position of wife and mother, she may preside as a queen in her own domain. A queen in God's kingdom is not lazy. A queen in God's kingdom humbles herself, gives her all, just like Christ gave his all. She should be fully competent to guide and instruct her children and to direct her servants, or if need be, as many of us know, to minister with her own hands to the wants of her household. Back then, many people had servants, and if they didn't have a servant, they were a servant. So, yes, we should be able to tell the servant what to do. I am quite bad at this. I'm very apologetic. I'm apologetic, and yet I'm paying them to provide the service, and this is something I have had to work on, to be the boss, not to be apologetic. They are cleaning, so they should clean as well as they can. So you need to do that. If you're training your children to be good Christians, train your servant to be a good servant. And too many of us don't want to be servants. We want to be leaders, but we can't have two leaders in the home. If you're employed, you are the employee, and that boss in the home is just as important as the boss in the office, and the duties you do in the home are just as important, more important, because the whole family relies on you, and God is watching you. God is not watching this office worker as much as he's watching the one who is caring for the children of the home. The one who's, like, if you're writing a plus by mistake and not a minus, God will not hold you as guilty as if you don't teach the child the right thing to eat, the right thing to wear. You don't teach them to be thorough, you don't teach them to be diligent, and you don't teach them to manage their time wisely. So in that sense, it's more important what you do in the home as a servant in the home, a nanny in the home, a domestic worker, or as the queen who is telling the domestic worker how to work. It's all important in God's eyes. God wants you to be a good boss, but also a firm boss. Like you're a good mother, but also a firm mother. It is her right to understand the mechanism of the human body and the principles of hygiene, the matters of diet and dress, labor and recreation, and countless others that intimately concern the well-being of her household. Hello.
And then I finished my food.
What did you eat?
Bananas, blueberries,
and grapes. Oh, great. Thank you for telling us what you ate.
And then we finished.
And then you finished. Thank you for sharing with us. I'm coming to you now, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Before God's help.
Are you trying to teach?
About God and A, and then we got the Bible at the Bible.
Yes, that's what it says.
Bible. It's that the book for me is an honor really.
Thank you for singing for us. Must I come out to you now? Must I come to you now?
No, thanks. You can stay and teach.
Okay, thank you for letting me stay and teach. Are you able to close the door for me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It is her duty to understand how the human body works, how the limbs work, what impacts your feet, what impacts your knees, the shoes you should wear to keep yourself and your skeletal system as balanced as possible, why you don't wear pinch toe shoes, why you don't wear huge why you don't wear stiletto heels. All of that is part of motherhood and queendom. Can you say that word? Queendom. Principles of hygiene, washing, cleanliness, antiviral behavior, all of that matters to God. Diet, dress, making sure all the limbs are equally covered so that there's perfect circulation. What does she say? Perfect circulation needs perfectly covered limbs. You'll find the quote, but that's what it says. Or if all your limbs are equally covered, not one short here and then these ones exposed, it's perfect. Which actually matches with how, have you seen the Sudanese? Or the Tuareg of the desert, hot. Only their faces, partially, some of them, and their hands are exposed. Hot Arab people. That sounds weird. people in the hot Arabian desert. They are fully covered and yet they are fully okay. So perfect circulation in summer and in winter is the same. There's no, that's all in the spirit of prophecy. I'm not doing a dressing and health thing right now, but it is something that is written. It is something that is written, and so I have to mention it, otherwise God would hold me accountable for not explaining to you why I'm always covered up. It's in His word. I'm pretty sure when God made Adam and Eve a robe, it wasn't cold, and yet they still wore their robe. Take it from there. Take it from how they dressed all the way through both testaments until whatever year it was when people started undressing. So that's where I will take it. I will leave it for you to study further, but look for perfect circulation. That's the phrase you can look for. And I did go that far because once upon a time, some years ago, a girl came back from a camp and she said to us, girls, do you know that we shouldn't be wearing short sleeves? We should only be wearing things that are from here going up. But so we asked her, okay, so why can't this part be visible? So we thought she was talking about modesty in terms of being modest and chaste. So we're asking what's so sexy about an elbow versus this part of the forearm. But the person who had taught her wrong, or had taught them wrong, or she had misunderstood. That is possible. Many of us are not first language English speakers, so she might have misunderstood. But if you read the spirit of prophecy, and if you take the principles from how the Levites, the Jews were dressed, it's the same principle. Please study it for yourself. I'm not saying God is going to hit you with lightning today, but He's told you now. Labor and recreation, and countless others that intimately concern the well-being of her household. Okay, my son is going to come soon and ask for the laptop because he's got to prepare for an exam, so I know I'm due an interruption for many other reasons, but I'm trying to concentrate and get this done. I had actually recorded everything on Sabbath, but when I reviewed, it was blurry. I'm praying so hard that it's not blurred now, but I did make sure. And it just irritated me, and I know that viewing something for long that is poor quality just grates, and it takes away your concentration. And so I'm recording again on Monday. All right, it takes me about 2 or 3 days to get through this because I've got a life. I've got a very full life. So let's hope we get through this, and we can only get through it if I keep quiet. It is her right to obtain such a knowledge of the best methods of treating disease that she can care for her children in sickness, instead of leaving her precious treasures in the hands of stranger nurses and physicians. Here is another pet peeve of mine. I have been visited by, astronomers, don't ask me why. I've been visited by health message people in our church and medical missionaries in our church who come and they want to treat, but they don't know what they're treating. We need to know the cause before we know, so that we know how to treat it. If we don't know what the problem is, then we're just shooting and hoping something sticks. It's like trying to treat a brain tumor by saying, I'm going to bring a bandage. A bandage will not fix a brain tumor. We need to know what is bothering the person, what impacts that disease or causes that disease or triggers that disease, and then we need to figure out if what we know in our arsenal is suitable. Has it ever been used for this disease? If it hasn't, then let's rather just keep quiet, because we might damage someone or cause them greater sickness. For example, I shared an autoimmune supplement video recently. That kind of thing is prevalent within the church, where we say, well, so and so taught that if you have a problem with this, then you should take this. So why don't you take this for your very specific and very different disorder, and it will help. But it might actually destroy instead of help. It might harm and not heal. So even as missionaries, not only as parents, we need to know how the organs all work together, what impacts them. Don't just throw an orange at a foot bunion or an apple at a broken patella. We need to know really what nutrients, what vitamins are necessary, and what herbs are healing. Not everything is good for everybody. Some herbs are actually bad for people who have chronic gastritis, for an example. And some herbs that fight inflammation are bad if you have ulcers. So we need, as parents, to know. And if we don't know, we have many books that are written by trained health practitioners, and we can consult those. And if we have no help from them, or if we can't do whatever is written, then I beg you, please go see a medical professional. There are things that were not in existence when the spirit of prophecy was written. In the same way that in the Bible you were allowed to stone people to death in the Old Testament, but by the New Testament time had come, we were not stoning anybody. I promise you that you can go and tell God it's my fault that you took your child for a brain scan and then you submitted for them to have the tumor removed. I will accept whatever happens if the only other thing you're going to do is tell them to drink broccoli. If your other option is to tell the child to drink broccoli and no other person has ever been treated for, let's say they've got glioblastoma. Let's say your child has glioblastoma, a tumor, cancerous, and you think that broccoli will cure them, but you don't know anybody who's ever had a glioblastoma cured with broccoli. Listen to me. Please go see a doctor. When that child dies, it will not have been God who has taken them to their rest. It will be you, not God. God has not given us medicine. He has given us medicine, just like He has given us medicine to fix our shattered pelvises. He has given us metal rods to fix our completely broken tibia, to lengthen shortened limbs. We need the medical field for certain things. I'm begging you. That child might bless the nation, might bless the world if you allow them to live, instead of giving them broccoli. Idleness is a sin, okay, for us and for our children. They need to learn to do the household duties. We need to perform them ourselves, not lazily, but diligently, not slothfully, but work with speed, but not untidily. Young women think that it is menial to cook and do other kinds of housework. And for this reason, many girls who marry and have the care of families have little idea of the duties devolving upon a wife and mother, and this is because we have told them that is not their duty. Today, the reason why girls think this is because we have told them there's something better than these duties, and that is a bold-faced satanic lie. There's nothing better than rising up to the sphere God has set for us women, as queens of the household, not as heads of departments, necessarily, of course. But if you have children and you are very able to live in your one-bedroom house and raise them, okay, I said one-bedroom house. I am not implying that you have to starve and raise your children. I know government schools are cheaper than your salary might be. But in that case, I would rather you don't have children. If you know that you will not be able to survive on a single income, don't have children, because you will be having children to give them to the devil. Because when you study fully what God has said about how our children should learn, you will know that schools out there, secular schools, are not godly, and they don't help our children become godly. Yes, we can come out of there and become godly, but we make it 100% harder for them, and sometimes impossible. So this is take it from me. if you will not be able to be the queen of the home, to teach and nurture your children yourself, instead of giving them not only to stranger nurses and physicians, but to stranger teachers, rather than be the head of department, save up, see maybe your husband will get a higher salary, promotions happen, bonuses happen, raises happen annually. Please wait. Please wait. Don't have a child and sacrifice them to Satan just because you couldn't wait. And I mean this as humbly as possible. God has said this. God has said this is how we should run our families, and I will not sacrifice for the sake of I don't know what. I will not compromise on the truth. Okay, so it is not menial to cook. It is not menial to cook. Thankfully, some people have now made it popular again. It is not menial to cook. It is not menial to clean the toilet well. It is not menial to scrub the sink. It is not menial to change a diaper. Yes.
Can I olive wafers?
Okay, let me find. In terms of health, for example, that we need our stomachs to digest, what to mix, what not to mix. We also need to use common sense. There is a group of Adventists where, Ellen White said, don't mix fruit and vegetable at the same meal. Have your fruit separately from your time when you have your vegetables. But in scientific terms, anything that has a seed in it is a fruit. Anything that has a seed in it is a fruit, scientifically. But that's not necessarily so. But what has happened is there is a sect amongst us where you cannot have a tomato with an onion because tomato is a fruit. So you meant to have your tomato together with your apples and your pears and your onion on its own. That is for them a sin. That is a fruiting vegetable, something like that, yes. Scientifically it might be a fruit, but it fulfills the same function as a vegetable. This poor woman once wanted to have gravy. What we do with our gravy or our stew is to have grated tomato, canned tomato, chopped tomato with our chopped onion. But even when she was pregnant and craving that, her husband reminded her, Ellen White said, don't put your fruit with your vegetables. God will not blame you for being so militant, but he also does want us to be thinking and use our common sense and logic. But it is always better to err on the side of right, always. So that's why I just kept quiet, because she will not lose anything by eating her tomato at another time of day. She won't. God will not blame her for it, and yeah. So we leave some things, but we do also teach each other and help each other to grow and grow in the right direction. Please don't deprive your pregnant wife of gravy, of stew. It should be a law that young people should not get married unless they know how to care for the children that are brought into their family. There is a huge range of children in the world. Healthy children, unhealthy children. Disordered children, not disordered children. Schizophrenic children, not schizophrenic children. Mentally ill children, not mentally ill children. Neurologically ill children, not neurologically ill children. Physically disabled, not. Different disabilities require different ways of life, ways of being, ways of doing. And so, though we do hold God's law to be sacrosanct, it is the same like with diet, where she says, yes, everyone should be eating legumes, but there are people whose digestive systems can't handle legumes. Do not tell them, you must have legumes, because it doesn't work for them. You're actually harming them. You're making them sicker than you are helping them. In that same vein, there are things that my friend whose child is disordered, I will overlook, and I know God will overlook, because the way she's raising the child is best for that child, best for their development, best for their needs. There's no blanket law. There's a principle, and we all live as close to the principle as possible, bearing in mind the situation we are in. So, like plant-based, egg. When you're vegan, you don't have egg. But if you are in Tanzania and you have lost weight and you now weigh 48 kilograms like I did, and I was still 1.64 centimeters, 1.64 meters tall, that's too thin. If you are then given by very thankful widows eggs for your family, what should you do? You should eat the eggs. So we ate the eggs. We didn't tell the children they were eating eggs because they just know they're vegan and they could eat everything. But the reason why legumes stood out for me is because I can't have legumes. And so that's all there was. There was tofu once, which a missionary made for me. But then there was nothing. There was no source of protein for me except the eggs that, not a missionary, the widow once gave us near the end of our time in mission work in Tanzania as a thank offering. So yes, eat the egg. If you have no other source of a particular nutrient, eat whatever has it. But don't eat pork. Don't eat pork. There's nothing in pork that is not available in something else. Don't break the kosher laws. That's the one thing we can't do. We can't break the kosher laws, and there's nothing in anything else that is not found in something else. There's nothing in meat that is not in anything else. There are other sources of calcium, there are other sources of iron, there are other sources of protein. So yeah, we don't need meat anyway at all, unless there's nothing else to eat except meat. I don't know if I'll even keep that in because I don't want to be misquoted, misunderstood, but I hope it makes sense. So we also need to understand what the Bible and the spirit of prophecy say based on where we live. And when we teach our children based on where they live and where they will live, and if we're ministering based on what is available to those who are ministering, we are ministering to. So to those villagers, we of course never taught them don't eat egg. And that is my plea. That's all I'm trying to say. Let's work based on the health needs of the people, the sensory needs, the needs of their particular disorder, disabilities, and what they can afford and find and get hold of. And that is the role of a mother, because your children are going to become missionaries in whatever sphere. I mean, they will become missionaries of their home if they're mothers and fathers, but they might go out somewhere else and become missionaries there, in the office, in the hospital, whatever. So we need to know what works best in all situations, so they can also go out with a full message and gospel. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying eat egg if you are in Cape Town. Please don't use me for that. The education which the young men and women who attend our colleges should receive in their home life is deserving of special attention. Okay, but first let me go back. Unless they understand in regard to the laws which God has established in their system, they cannot understand their duty to their God or themselves. If you don't know how your body works, then you don't know how to work for God and how to work for your own self. That is heavy. That is important. That is deep. And that is something we are severely lacking in. Learn. We have so much for us, especially who are here. We have a lot that we can read. We don't have to have trained at a health institute. We don't have to have gone to mission training, health, medical, whatever, medical missionary training per se. It is good to have gone. But if we haven't, we still have the knowledge. We can still gain the knowledge. We can still buy the book. We can still buy the natural health encyclopedias. We can do it. We have no excuse to be guilty, ignorant of the information that God has set out there. And if we are not seeking out the information, that means we are definitely not going to be seeking out what God's will is for us. Will we? If we are too lazy to care about our bodies physically, it implies or shows that we are too lazy to care about our spiritual health, because the two are intertwined. All right, let's now go to 88.4. The education which the young men and women who attend our colleges should receive in their home life is deserving of special attention. It is of great importance in the work of character building that students who attend our colleges be taught to take up the work that is appointed them, throwing off all inclination to sloth. They need to become familiar with the duties of daily life. They should be taught to do their domestic duties thoroughly and well. Thoroughly and well, with as little noise and confusion as possible. Everything should be done decently and in order. The kitchen and all other parts of the building should be kept sweet and clean. Books should be laid aside till their proper season, and no more study should be taken than can be attended to without neglecting the household duties. Clean first, really. Clean everything first. If you have many children in the home, take it in turns. Today it's the boys' turn to wash dishes, tomorrow it's the girls. Today it's the boys' turn to make the veggie burgers, tomorrow it's the girls. Everyone, male and female, that's what she said, should be learning all these things in the kitchen and elsewhere. In the bathroom and elsewhere. I know I keep using bathroom is because I've not yet met a homemaker who likes cleaning the toilet, so that's why I keep using it. I like ironing. I've met people who don't like ironing. I actually like seeing the creases disappear. I like ironing, but yeah, some people don't. But I know no one who likes cleaning the toilet, so let us teach our children to clean the toilet and clean it well. This also means we're not going to be quiet when they don't do it properly. Depending on their age, we then modify how we speak, or we then overlook. If they're too young, we do overlook. If they've done their best, we do overlook. We have to also be wise and mindful of where our children are. But now these are college students. They have to do it, and they have to do it well. And if they don't, call them to account and tell them, start over. Quietly, not bashing and clanging of lids in the sink and washing and splashing water. I've seen people do this. Quietly, thoroughly, as little noise and confusion. And what comes first? The household, cleanliness, hygiene. The last line says of this paragraph, the study of books is not to engross the mind to the neglect of home duties upon which the comfort of the family depends, and not only our comfort, but our health and life. In the performance of these duties, careless, neglectful, disorderly habits should be overcome, for unless corrected, these habits will be carried into every phase of life, and the life will be spoiled for usefulness. Laziness in one thing just means we'll be lazy in another. If we don't teach diligence, thoroughness in this, how will they learn to be thorough in that? It begins with every duty, and it will then spread into other duties as well. Many of the branches of study that consume the student's time are not essential to usefulness or happiness, but it is essential for every youth to have a thorough acquaintance with everyday duties. A woman must let go even of French or even algebra, but it is indispensable that she learns how to make good bread, to fashion neatly fitting garments, and to perform efficiently the many duties that pertain to homemaking. Of course, back in those days, most people did get their clothes made. They bought fabric. Everyone mostly bought fabric. That was the norm. Today we have stores, but we should still be thinking, what do we do when that skirt tears? How do we shorten that skirt? That kind of stuff too is still necessary. How do we fix the hem if it comes undone? That is still important. They should still know that. And not everywhere will have shops. What then? Or not everywhere you go will have the clothing that is necessary for you to wear. What then? Can you repurpose this old t-shirt to use for your child's skirt? I used to love sewing and making things by hand, but my body unfortunately didn't allow me, and now my time doesn't allow me, so I do have to buy. We also need to weigh what will be as efficient as possible with everything that we do, and so that we can do everything decently and in order. We know also making things takes longer than acquiring them. So everyone knows their own circumstances, knows what they will have available to them tomorrow. So, but the principles are still there. Let's learn to make whatever we still have make ourselves, let's make it as healthily as possible and as healthfully as possible. Stewing, steaming, sauteing, not deep frying, for example. All right. Oh, the next chapter is about how, the next paragraph is about how the health and the happiness of the whole family is dependent on the skill and intelligence of the cook. By ill-prepared, unwholesome food, she may hinder and even ruin both the adult's usefulness and the child's development. Or by providing food adapted to the needs of the body and at the same time inviting and palatable, she can accomplish as much in the right as otherwise she accomplishes in the wrong direction. The other thing I have with this whole making food healthy but not palatable, or palatable depending on who you are, is that a child will associate that particular healthy thing with a gross taste, with something distasteful, when there are ways to make it tasty. My children don't understand why there are children who don't like broccoli. Firstly, I believe their taste buds were already formed rightly anyway from the beginning. So that's why they like broccoli, because that's all they ever had in the beginning. But also how you prepare the broccoli has an impact. And the taste buds are different depending on where people come from. The food we had in Tanzania was horrible. It was not tasty to us, but to them it was delicious. They gave us whatever they said was the luxury or the high, whatever, the treat of the most yummy vegetable. It was bitter to us, but for them it was delicious. You go to Natal, for them it's very hot and spicy, which is wrong anyway, but for them that is it, chili. So when they come to us, they will think our food is bland, when it's actually not. When it for someone else who's used to the Tanzanian food in that particular place that we ate, to them our muted herbs will come across as too much. So yes, and that is why again we keep quiet. If a whole village eats the same way, we're not going to tell them your food is disgusting. For them it is palatable. But yes, mothers, let us practice to make our food delicious so our children don't think I hate broccoli. They might tell us, I don't like mashed broccoli. That's different. So let us aim to do that so that they look forward to eating healthy food. All right, the principles of hygiene as applied to diet, exercise, the care of children, the treatment of the sick, and many like matters should be given much more attention than they ordinarily receive. That is true. Exercise we barely talk about. I do talk about it on here, and again, exercise is needful, but how much to exercise is also a matter of principle. Too much, too extreme, too aggressive, too is not enough. I mean, if you've read this, you know walking is really all you need to do. Gardening is all you need to do. So the extra is just that, it's an extra. So let us also balance what is needful versus what is enjoyable. And let us not give to everybody the same standard we have set. You will find runners thinking that others are lazy, when God never said you have to run. You don't have to run. You just have to walk briskly, chest up, and lungs open. That's all she wants, with an elastic step, as she says. That's all you need. Gardening, it's all you need. And she doesn't mean you must garden all day long. And if you've got back problems, then don't garden at all. So yes, we should know what our children should do, but we should also know what is harmful. In that we must be temperate. That's it. Temperate for them, the situation, the conditions within which they are. Care of children in everything, mental, physical, moral. We don't pay enough attention. We don't, because we have outsourced the raising of our children to school teachers. The habit of enjoying useful labor, once formed, will never be lost. You are then prepared to be placed in any circumstances in life, and you will be fitted for the position. You will learn to love activity. If you enjoy useful labor, your mind will be occupied with your employment, and you will not find time to indulge in dreamy fancies. Enjoy the useful labor. Don't hanker after something else, because the other thing is, if you're not focused on what you're doing and doing it to the best of your ability, then you're not doing it to the best of your ability if you're thinking of other things. And if you're rushing through it, then you're indulging your other things to the detriment of your carefulness and thoroughness. We need to do it perfectly. And if we enjoy it, we spend the correct amount of time. We don't just rush through and leave spots or stains or flecks. Flecks, flicks in that sense. We don't leave those if we are as God would want us to be. And the other thing I used to enjoy was looking up ways of doing things as economically as possible, cheaply as possible, as in the least harmful manner. So if you've got vinegar, to use that in the tile grouting, for example, spirit vinegar, instead of whatever harmful thing will mess up your eyes or your nose or your lungs, for example, things like that. We have a lot of people online who teach things like that. Sorry for the who teach things like that. So let's make use of the internet wisely as well to help us. So that's the other thing. When she says if we love our labor, our minds will be occupied with that. So we'll find what's the best way to get rid of germs in this. What's the best way to get rid of blood stains on tile or whatever it is. And then we won't waste time watching silly things, useless things, reading useless things. A woman who has been taught to take care of herself is also fitted to take care of others. She will never be a drag in the family or in society, as in a drag. That's what we would say today. When fortune frowns, there will be a place for her somewhere. A place where she can earn an honest living and assist those who are dependent upon her. When you know how to care for yourself properly, you can go and take care of an elderly person. You can go take care of a family in need of a nanny, a governess, a tutor, an au pair, that. In this society, if someone is at work, someone else needs to be cleaning. If someone has a child and they have to go to work, someone else has to watch the child. Women should be trained to some business whereby she can gain a livelihood if necessary. Please do. As I've said this before, use your skill to make a small business for yourself. It can become large. Passing over other honorable employments, every girl should learn to take charge of the domestic affairs of home, should be a cook, a housekeeper, a seamstress. She should understand all those things which it is necessary that the mistress of a house should know, whether her family are rich or poor. Just because you're rich, don't say, I'll leave it to the domestic worker. Still learn, because if reversals of fortune, if she becomes poor, she's prepared for any emergency. She is, in a manner, independent of circumstances. That is the thing. Independent of circumstances, not I've got my own money. It means she can use her body. If she's poor now, she can go out and get work. She can be gainfully employed, and in any sphere, whether she can go and become a builder, a seamstress, a tailor, or she will work in a home taking care of other people's children and being a home missionary there. She will be able to take care of herself. That's true godly independence. And with this one is something common these days. When a little girl is 9 or 10 years old, she should be required to take her regular share in household duties as she is able. So even there, it's not a blanket requirement. Don't just say, well, you are 9 years old, you must do it if your child is globally developmentally delayed or has other disorders or disabilities or learning disorders and can't even process what you're telling them to do, or their motor skills, or if they've got cerebral palsy and literally their body doesn't allow them to do something. Just be mindful of where your child is mentally as well, please. as she is able and should be held responsible for the manner in which she does her work. Right, manner as well. As we said before, don't pass over shoddy work if you know that she can do better or he can do better. In early times, custom required the bridegroom, before the ratification of a marriage engagement, to pay a sum of money or its equivalent in other property, according to his circumstances, to the father of his wife. They didn't just do it to enrich themselves, as is done in many other situations. They did it based on what he can do, and as evidence. They wanted it, as it will say, as evidence to show that he can take care of their daughter, not to enrich themselves as her family. This was regarded as a safeguard to the marriage relation. Fathers did not think it safe to trust the happiness of their daughters to men who had not made provision for the support of a family. This was done out of love for their daughters. It wasn't a means of, it wasn't viewing her as property. It wasn't viewing her as an investment. We paid this much, so you must give us back this much. That's not how it was done in early times. It was done so that the wife or the daughter would be safe, her future secure. If the men had not sufficient thrift and energy to manage business and acquire cattle or lands, it was feared that their life would prove worthless. But provision was made to test those who had nothing to pay for a wife. They were permitted to labor for the father whose daughter they loved, the length of time being regulated by the value of the dowry required. When the suitor was faithful in his services, and proved in other respects worthy, he obtained the daughter as his wife, and generally the dowry which the father had received was given her at her marriage, which is what my father had wanted to do, to give it back to me, because, as I said, she needs it. It's her boyfriend, now husband. They need it for their family. And this was right. What else? There was something I wanted to say. It was about safety for the family. And they also can see, okay, he doesn't have a job. Is it because he's lazy? Let's see, is it just the way things are? There's a high unemployment in our country. You can be as hardworking as possible, but you can't find anything to do. You can't find any garden to garden. You can't find any house to clean. You literally have nowhere to look or no job to find. So then what happens? Let them prove themselves around our field, our farm. Let's see if they are hardworking or if they really are just lazy. And if he's there, they can also see his character and the other things that are needful for a young man to be and have before he becomes a husband. So it shows, is he industrious? Is he hardworking? Does he keep time? Does he keep to a schedule? Is he able to manage? If there are servants, is he able to manage the servants? That's the kind of stuff he would do at the office as well. Is he able to manage his direct reports, etc.? And yeah, the last part is the last thing I'm going to read is the second last paragraph, 92.2. The ancient custom, though sometimes abused as by Laban, was productive of good results and abused by many of our parents, mothers who will use the money to buy new furniture for their home. When the suitor was required to render service to secure his bride, a hasty marriage was prevented, and there was opportunity to test the depth of his affections, as well as his ability to provide for a family. That is lovely, because if you're thinking, what, pay that much to get her? No way. That means he doesn't value you. He should believe you are. There's not even a value that he could ever put to you. He should believe that there's no amount too high, and if the parents, your parents, lady, are also wise and godly, they won't charge an amount too high anyway. I mean, they're not going to charge an amount so easy that he doesn't have to work to give it. He needs to prove that he's able to work, he is industrious, and he can save if he's already working. So that is where we will end. Everybody needs to work in the home. Not only, there's no division of labor where girls must work in the house and the boys must work in the yard. Everybody works indoors. Husbands, forget this. I don't know about other people. The husbands I know of in my circle, and in the spheres I'm in, they forget that. Sometimes they begin well, 5 years, 10 years married, they do, and then it just drops off, and it's like, hey, I've been working hard all week, I need to rest. But you see, he's resting from the work he was doing at work. Surely, should he not now help in the house? And as I've asked before, what then happens to the wife who has been doing the same work? When does she rest? So, everybody needs rest, and if we all work together, everybody will get rest faster, sooner, and it will be kinder and more loving that way. So, boys and girls must learn to work. We need to learn and be well-rounded, well-educated in the things of God, in raising a family as women, and in running households, telling our servants what to do in a godly way, but firm, just as we will raise our children, guarding their diet, their exercise, their dress, and all that comes with having a child. And as I said, if you are not financially ready, yes, this is where I was going. If you're not financially ready to be the queen at home, don't have a child, I beg you. Unless, of course, you don't care what their future is going to be like, what they will be learning at school, the children, the things they will hear at school, the things they will hear from the teachers, from their children, from the prefects. If you don't care, then go ahead. But if you're watching this because you want to please God, if you want to have the best chance possible for your child to be holy, knowing that Eve was in the best place possible and she still sinned, then wait. Wait until you can afford it. What do you need? It depends on your standards. There are people who are homeschooling their children while living in a 1-bedroom backyard, a converted garage. There are actually 2 people I know living in a converted garage, like where a car lives, converted into 1 room. They are staying there. The mother is raising the children in that space. They would rather be together all day, happy with each other, than to have 2 jobs and maybe move into a place with the 2 bedrooms. So it is really, I will not ever tell you how much is enough, but there are people who are doing it even with 2 children. And I know for me, when we began, my husband and I, we didn't have a bedroom. We slept on a mattress in the lounge area, and it was never a case of, if we could just send our children to some government school and just pay the 1,000 rand a month, that the fees are, I don't know how much government school fees are, but there's a special school where they were charging 1,002 per month. So that's what I'm basing it on. And my salary would be 20,000 or 15,000, then we'd be rich. It never crossed our minds. Okay, yes, there's transport and aftercare, but it wouldn't come up to the 15 or 20,000. It never crossed our minds. When you have decided, your circumstances won't change your decision. Widowhood is a whole other story, or if the man leaves with divorce, that's a whole other story. But then you're not living together as a couple, are you? But don't let your circumstances or the other people's circumstances choose for you how you will live and raise your family. They might want their 3 bedrooms. You don't need 3 bedrooms to have a happy, holy, God-fearing family. Others are doing it in just 1 bedroom. Or others, they have the sitting room and a bedroom. The children sleep in the sitting room. They're still homeschooling them. They still love God. They are still happy. Godliness with contentment is great gain. That's what the Bible says. And it's true.